Welcome, guys, back to the I Love Wrestling podcast. I'm your host, as always, Justin Wright. Today, we're welcome with a fellow podcaster from out of Orlando, that wrestling dude. How are we doing, man?
Good man, good man. Thanks for having me on, man. How you doing today?
Doing great, blessed. Every day to be on earth. It's a blessed
Absolutely.
day. I love the glasses. I love the glasses. Where you get the fashion sense from?
The more ridiculous, the better, man. Scoop
Okay,
these bad boys up. My homeboy actually part-time co-host Ginger Spice. He's big into Pit Vipers. I think his wife was rocking the different color ones. I was like, man, I got to get some of those.
okay,
I got
okay.
like two other color ones too. Same design, different colors. Some pink
That's
ones.
badass. I love it. I love it. Um, Before we get started, do you want to plug any of your stuff? Let the people know where they can check you out, what you got going on the podcast.
That wrestling dude, DOOD, everywhere. Check me
Okay.
out. I'm always posting
You
shit.
you got any upcoming interviews or anything that you want to shout out?
Next Tuesday, G Money from Ring Wars Carolina, 8 o'clock, man. Check us out. Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube go live.
Perfect.
And
Do
then
you do
after
all
that,
your
after that,
sorry.
just like kind of week to week. I
Okay.
try to get them on like Sunday, see where they're at for the following week.
Nice. Do you do all of your interviews live?
Yeah.
Okay. What's that like? I've always recorded them. What's the live?
Um First time, not gonna lie, nerve-wracking, but
Okay.
just kind of go with the flow and kind of find your groove, man. And it helps talking to wrestlers because they're all about themselves and they're all about talking, and you just kind of, it's kind of horrible to say, like talking to my wife, man. You lead it, give her a couple questions here and there, and they'll ramble on for a while.
Let her say what she needs to.
Absolutely, absolutely. A couple questions here and there, man.
I love it.
But it is
Uh,
kind of nerve wracking at first because technical difficulties, people's internet cutting in and out, and then you're kind of like, hey guys,
you're sitting there
I'm just
waiting for
gonna
them.
yeah, like give me kill some time till the shit comes back on.
Do you think you perform better without the safety net of a
I
recorded
would I
episode?
would I would think so because then you'd have in that back of your mind like, oh, that was stupid. Let me go back and try to edit it down and piece it a little bit back together.
I can tell you, as somebody who records them, that's always the struggle is trying to cut out the things that you don't want to. And that, like, when I first started doing podcasting, it's something I focused way too much on.
Yeah,
And then as I go on, now it's all raw footage. Like,
yeah,
editing is like a bare minimum. Like, if it
yeah.
happened in the episode, it's probably going on there, unless the talent says, I don't want that on there.
That's
Then
what
I'll,
that's what people want to see, anyways, man. They want to see the real you. They want to see real life shit,
exactly.
man. They don't want to see fabricated stuff. For that, they'll tune in Monday nights or Friday nights.
Definitely, definitely. What would you say as that wrestling dude? When did you find wrestling, and like kind of what made you fall in love with it?
Um, People always ask me, and I always adjust. People are like, "Oh, I saw Andre or whatever Hogan, and it got me hooked." I was in and out of it as a kid. I really got
Mhm.
into it. I'm an Attitude Era kid, 90s baby. So that's when I really got into it. 95, 96. WWF was starting to roll, WCW, and we had ECW. So that 96, 97, 98 era, man, was like peak wrestling, man. That's what it just kind of snowballed from there.
What was your favorite match as like a kid or growing up?
Still to this day, man, Bret Hart, Stone Cold, I Quit match.
Okay,
With Ken
WrestleMania 13.
Yep, Ken Shamrock. Hell in a Cell, you gotta throw that in there. Um, TLCs, the original ones, Dudley's, Hardy's, Edge and Christian. Um, Loved a lot of Taz, Bam Bam Bigelow, guilty as charged or living dangerously when he tosses him through the ring in
Okay.
up in New Jersey. I mean, the list goes on and on, man. And like I said, I was a '90s kid, man, so I love all the stuff from back in those days, man. It was just different back then.
Which spot do you think resonated more when it came to Bam Bam and Taz? Going through the stage or going through the ring?
Um, Stage off the stage, man, into the crowd. Because
Okay.
under that ring they must have threw a little bit something here or there to kind of cushion that fall. But through that Taskplex over through the crowd, over the railing through the crowd, man. I mean, there's no
That.
fault. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's no catching for that.
Growing up in the 90s, I assume wrestling was always unpredictable. Everything's mostly live. You got Raw, you got Nitro, and then ECW is always unpredictable. What do you think was like the most shocking thing that you saw on television?
I was just talking to Captain, shout out Captain Aranova about this last night because he's an Attitude Era kid, man, and mean, we had Val Venus. The guy was a porn star. You had the Godfather that come out with hoes, like girls dressed basically butt ass naked. And you imagine 12, 13, 14-year-old kid that on TV. Those are some of the wildest things. I think it was more, to me, it was more WWF was the more unpredictability of it. Because you knew ECW, knew it was more Raw, more crazy stuff you're gonna see there with the flaming tables and jumping off balconies and stuff. But Raw was more, to me, more the unpredictability of you don't know what's gonna happen, man. You don't know what Stone Cold's gonna do tonight. You don't know what The Rock's gonna come, what's gonna come out of his mouth. Imagine that time too is like a lot of people don't realize. I was like Jerry Springer was huge, man. Like that guy got the biggest ratings, and it was all like trashy ass TV of people coming on and fighting over the dumbest shit. Like, but that's how the society was back then. The crazier, the better.
I'm gonna hit you with a statement. I'm gonna see how you react. I would say that late era ECW, I'm talking like 99 to the end of it, was probably my favorite era of
Really?
ECW.
I was a fan, man. King of Old School, Steve Carino, man. I was a big
Exactly.
Steve Carino fan. Rhino. I'm so shocked that it took WWE so long to get Rhino because he was a beast in ECW. Jack Victory. I like Jack Victory.
I think Mike Awesome did it for me. Something about Mike Awesome was just so impressive.
Them and Masato Tanaka, man. Those matches were insane.
Those matches hurt me as a kid. Watching them, I was like, "There's no way that can feel good."
Dude, those chair shots, man. I'm surprised Masato's still out there, still doing it, man. Because he used to take some vicious chair shots, and then the power bombs, power bombs over the top rope through the tables and stuff, man.
Nasty.
Yeah, and he's still going.
Did you see or get to catch his match with Joey Janela?
I did not. That was a recent one.
Yeah, it happened at Hammerstein at the GCW's latest Hammerstein.
I think I saw clips of that. I think
I feel like they tried to do similar things to what him and Awesome do. Obviously, you're not going to be able to recreate that.
No.
But seeing Tanaka go the same way or try to go to the same pace was actually insane. And it still holds up.
Yeah.
What era would you say, if any, did you kind of move away from wrestling?
Right after that, after WCW closed, I caught a little bit of the Lion stuff. And then after that, it just, no competition, man, breeds complacency. And that's what kind of turned into. But I do miss, I miss the whole, Batista being a big thing. Like, I don't see him as a huge star because I wasn't watching during that time. There's a couple of those guys like that they're huge, and I just never, and I got back into it once CM Punk came back on the scene.
Okay. Is Punk what brought you back, or was it something else?
It was Punk, but I think it was also just kind of going through that, I stopped watching kind of after high school, and you kind of get into your life kind of deal of trying to figure shit out. And then back then kind of too is there was no DVRs. So if you didn't watch it live, you missed out. It wasn't until a couple years after that TiVo came out, but not everybody had TiVo. Like, you had to have money to go out there and buy one of those things. So it's like one of those things, you out, young kid, you're out on, Friday night, watching SmackDown, man. You're out at the bar trying to pick up chicks, not watch wrestling.
Definitely.
So it was up until I got older and I was able to actually start recording this shit on the cable boxes that I started to be able to watch and get back into it on my own time.
So are we talking pipe bomb era CM Punk or before that?
Yeah, because I found out about him his last one with MLW when they were hyping him up there. I saw a little bit of his stuff in TNA. But when he came back through kind of the revival of ECW is when I started watching again because I had to check that out because I was a big ECW guy.
Got you.
That was started the Ruthless Aggression era, kind of, right? 08? Was it?
It was mid Ruthless Aggression era, probably closer to the start of. I know there's the weird era in between, the PG era and the Ruthless Aggression era. That was kind of whenever they went HD.
Yeah,
that's when so it's kind of like that era, I'd say. Yeah. Was you ever big into wrestling video games?
Yeah, I was, man. 64 WCW NWO Revenge, man. That was the greatest game.
So you were the opposite of what most people would say. Most people throw No Mercy out there.
Really?
Yeah.
But I feel like NWO came out first though, than No Mercy. When did those two come out? But I loved it, man, because you had, as stupid as this sounds now with how crazy games are, but you beat the game with certain the outsiders. You beat them, the tag team storyline. The belts have the NWO thing on them, and the Hogan spray paint. So it's stupid stuff like that. Oh shit, I just unlocked this one little thing. And you think about how video games are now, man. Like you can buy everything with it. But to me, it was NWO WCW Revenge. And the funny thing is I'm a WWE guy. I watched WCW during the commercials, but I'd always flip back, like not to miss anything on Raw.
Like what's funny to me about those games is like I'll talk to my dad. My dad was he grew up in the '90s as well, and he always liked No Mercy because the creation, I'm gonna call it Creation Suite because that's what it's called now, was so good that you could make the WCW superstars and
Yeah.
they'd be just as good as they were on the WW or the WCW games, but you could use them against the WWF superstars, which I thought was cool. I
Yeah.
never got to experience it because I didn't really know I don't know how to work the old creation stuff. This new stuff's just too advanced. So
Yeah.
like you go back and try to play something old, it doesn't click the same way for some reason. But that's something I always thought was cool was just being in that generation and be able to mix the two hottest companies together had to
Yeah.
have been fun.
Yeah. No, it was exciting. And the cool thing was, man, is everybody was into it, man. Everybody, like, you see the ratings now, and they're nothing compared to what a Raw did. I mean, Raw used to do what seven, eights every night. So did
Or more.
Nitro. Yeah. So every like you go to school and everybody was into wrestling. It kind of feels a little bit like it's starting to happen again. Starting to become cool and not just something that I think nerds watch all the time. Like it was, there's an attitude there. Starting to become more mainstream again.
What do you think is the biggest contribution to that
Now or then?
now?
Um, Social media, probably, man. I think being able to have so many ways of absorbing it, it helped that AEW came along, even whatever you want to say about what it's at now. It did kind of raise the competition a little bit when it first came out. Um, and then just the stars, man. I mean, WWE's good at making stars, and I think that was kind of what was lacking before. Like you had spots of guys, good guys here and there, but nothing like the level of talent you see now.
Okay. What would you say made you start podcasting?
I want to do something different.
Okay.
We went to indie show, first one I've been to, and
Okay.
met some of the guys there, cool guys, and I was like, just trying to figure out something that I can help them kind of do. So it just kind of turned into that with the mix of um just want to do something different. I was been posting shit for 3 years, and decided let me help some guys out and let me try to give it back to them. So what I try to do is all about spotlighting them, spotlighting the promotions they're at, and promoting their upcoming shows. Kind of like try to give back to those guys and
So
girls.
far, so far since you started, how well do you think it's been received?
From the guys themselves, good. Always
Okay.
thankful for the opportunity. Because again, like for them, it's more reps. The more reps of getting themselves, just being able to talk to somebody else. Like, because a lot of these guys, they only get those reps in when they're at a show, which is what, once a week, maybe twice a month.
Yep.
The real good guys are booked all the time, but for the most part, some of these guys they're not getting those reps in to be able to talk and find themselves. So with the guys, yeah, and then on the other side, I don't know, I don't really pay attention to comments and stuff like that. So I wouldn't know. I guess
Okay.
on the viewer side of it, I guess we'd say.
It's interesting you say that because I could say maybe I might bite myself in the ass saying this, but sometimes I think I worry too much about what other people
Yeah,
think, what the consumer thinks. How do you go about doing that? How do you go say, "Hey, I made this," and not really look back and say, "What is the consumer? What are the critiques or whatever?"
I'm older, man.
Okay.
Been through that. Um,
Hmm.
but at the same time, like I said, don't read the comments, man, because there's always gonna be someone out there that's gonna sort of hate.
Yeah.
And then once you see that, you're just gonna fucking laser focus in on that. You know what I mean? So I'm all about, to me, what comes across, what I think, what I like when I watch people's stuff is this just authenticity of it. People being
Hmm.
themselves. I don't, like, again, like I said at the beginning, I don't want to. If I wanted to watch something fake, I don't want to say fake, but entertainment. I go on Mondays or Fridays and watch the entertainment I like.
Yes.
Not to see some guy put on a show and pretend of he's someone who's not, kind of deal. Be yourself, man. That's what people want to see. Be yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's cool because like I've never had, I don't want to say never. I don't believe I've ever had a talent come to me and say, "Hey, that was completely off," or like, "Hey, I didn't like that. Let's not post that.
Yeah.
Have you ever had an incident like that, or has it
I
all
was,
been
I just thought of one. I had one with FIP World Champion. Shout out August 12. We did the first interview was awesome. Second one, I've already kind of met, like hung out with him in real life. So it kind of wasn't more of a I'm gonna say interview or whatever, but it was more just two dudes like hanging out, talking shit.
mm-hmm.
So afterwards, he was just like, dude, there was like no substance to this. It was just us talking shit for an hour. Like, no one wants to hear that banter of the dumbest shit. It wasn't anything wrestling related. It was just shooting the shit, talking shit, like you hanging out at a bar talking shit.
Okay?
But
Do
he's right. I
you
mean, he's right. But there is certain points of that conversation I'm a post because there's some funny shit in there. But I think
Yeah.
for an overall thing, I mean, I don't think it was I would think it would be entertaining to most people.
Okay. When you go to put together a show, do you like have a format, or do you just kind of free flow it, see
Um,
what happens?
I have a basic set of questions that I go in order. Usually for the first time because just so people that don't know you, always open up the same thing. Who trained you? Where you based out of? How many years? Just kind of get a because people know if you're trained by someone oh, okay, you can make the tie together, or how long they've been in. You kind of expect where the gauge at with what they know. So I have kind of like the baseline questions, stuff that I like to know, like what's your biggest moment, like what's the coolest shit you've done. And I always at the end like to finish up with promoting the shows, man. Like, hey, where you going at? Where you gonna be at next weekend? Who you facing? And that way I can cut it up for you. We can post it. We can promote these shows for you and have content for them so they can have.
Do you have any like talent that you talk to on the regular, or any promotions that you like talk to or promote regularly?
Did Generation Championship Wrestling. August 12 was a champ there. Help promote them. I just got in contact with Mayhem on Mills here in Orlando. They got a show
Okay.
coming up April 6th. I'm gonna see if I can get some of their guys on to help promote their show coming up.
I was gonna. I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. That's why I
You're,
like the recorded version of this.
you're good. You're good. You're good.
Yeah. Um.
But the thing is, I have I got a full time career and I got 3 kids. I'm married with 3 kids, so it's like there's only so much time in the day that I could dedicate to this, that, and you know what I mean. Like, so it's
Well,
wish I could do end up doing more, but you got to kind of juggle your time.
with that said, that's kind of where I was going to go at with the question. I could tell you got kids, you got toys and stuff in the background. I assume, like you say, you got a full time job. How do you balance a podcast, kids, wife, job? Like, how do you do that?
Dude, it's you got no choice, man.
Fair enough.
Up about 5:30 in the morning, get to work, do like 9 hours, and I got to get off to pick up the kids. Cook dinner. Wife comes home. All right, so just making it work, man. So that's why I try to do this stuff at 8 o'clock at night. That way, by then, the kids aren't running around acting crazy, screaming in the background, acting like baby's kids. Um, but it's just one of them things, man. You got to if you want to do it, man, you got to make the time to do it.
Do
And
they?
for the longest time, I wanted to do this podcast and stuff. It was just posting videos for longest, and it was just going over that hump of finally pulling the trigger and saying, "All right, let me dedicate some time to actually do this and dive into it."
Does the family love wrestling?
No, not at all. They all
No.
think it's nerdy as hell.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
It's funny because like I could say probably my dad is the only one that really pays attention to it. Like my little brothers do every once in a while, but they're teenagers; they don't
yeah.
care. Everybody else is like, as long as I enjoy it, they don't care. But yeah, it's nerdy.
No,
Like,
yeah,
what are you
yeah.
doing?
And that's the thing. I got 2 boys and a girl, and all of them are like no interest. I'm like, come on, one day, hopefully, let me have one of you come to the dark side.
Would you ever want one of them or some of them to come on as a guest and get you talking with them?
Oh yeah, my kids are characters, man. Like they're a hundred
I bet.
times they're 100 times bigger characters than I am. And my wife's even worse. So it's like I always kind of make the joke that these kids have no chance in hell of ever growing up normal.
I think that's a good thing, though.
Yeah,
Honestly,
yeah,
growing up
absolutely,
normal
absolutely. It's
it's a trap.
boring. Yeah,
It's
it's
a trap,
boring.
man.
Yeah,
Where did you come up with the persona? Because that wrestling dude, he's a character.
yeah. Like wrestling, man. Myself turned up to the max, man. Just like
Okay.
any kind of person. To be myself, like I told you, man. That's people just want the authenticity of who you are. These are glasses that I'd wear driving. So it's not looking that special for this.
Have you ever thought about performing? Like, was it ever an idea to get in the ring and try something?
Um, I think if I was younger now, I would have like pre-kids, like because when I was kind of coming up, wrestling wasn't easy to Google wrestling school and there's like 30 of them in the 10-mile radius because that's what it
Yeah.
seems like now. Like I can name probably
No, they're
six.
everywhere.
Yeah, it wasn't like that when I was 18, 19, 20. It was still kind of hard to kind of like think how to get into them. You had to know somebody to kind of show up at the events and put the ring up and tear it down and get them to know you before they give you an opportunity. Now possibly, I think I'm gonna try to maybe get into commentating here and
Okay.
there, to get my feet wet. I just don't know if I have the balls, man, to go in front of a crowd like that yet, at least.
I mean,
Because it's
you
nerve
could,
wracking at first, man. Because I've done presentations and like it's
okay.
easier the more you do it, the more reps you do it. Like I said
Yeah.
with the podcast thing is I know it's just ripping off the band-aid because I know once you do that first time, it's life changing, man. That rush of performing in front of a crowd.
If you could have any guest on your podcast, who would it be?
Vince,
Vince?
can you
Okay.
imagine? Could you imagine?
I like it. I
Yeah.
like it.
And that to lead up to the shitting on the head things though. You can't start off with that. You gotta lead them down the path for that.
Yeah, you gotta you gotta lead it. You can't start with, "Hey, why did you poop on his head?" You gotta
Yeah.
you gotta work that in there.
Yeah.
It's crazy because like I think me and my dad the other day were joking around and he threw Vince out there. I think first he threw out Johnny Ace, and I was like, "Dad,
I
nobody wants
hate
to get in
Johnny
John
Ace,
Long.
man.
Nobody wants to talk about people power
Yeah.
nor pooping power. Nobody wants
Yeah.
to talk about it."
I
Like
hated when during that whole people power, man. It's like, and it wasn't even like hate because he's a heel, just fucking hated him.
it was anything he said. His voice, I think his voice just pissed me
Yeah.
off as a kid.
Yeah.
But no, Vince would be an interesting one.
Yeah.
Uh,
Because
what would
he really doesn't do interviews. Like you
no?
can't really find a lot of stuff of him like that talking like that. And because imagine having like a candid conversation with him, that it'd be amazing.
I think his last one was with Pat McAfee, if I'm correct. A couple, like probably a year or so before he got in trouble or
Yeah.
whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
What would be like your main focus of the conversation? Like, what would you try to get out of it?
Thought process, man, behind the creative.
Okay,
Because you think at up until I want to say the Attitude Era, man, it was just him and one other person like writing these fucking shows and like having 6 month story arcs and being able to like create stories like that, but not with just one guy, but with a whole roster of people and keep it entertaining and consistently good throughout all that time. Picking his brain on that, man, just the creative side of it. I know he got shitty towards the end of his life, but he can only imagine like 80-year-old guy trying to write
it's
for
a
what
different,
people.
it's a
Yeah,
different ball game,
it's
man.
different. Yeah, it's different. So he's just gonna keep up with that evolution. But I mean, the guy, for all the personal crazy shit he's done, I mean, he's a genius. You think about it, he's a creative genius, man.
So
To create that many stars, because it's hard to just to create one or two, but on a consistent basis, able to create stars like that, stars after decade, man, is incredible.
decades. I don't know. It's just so intriguing, like to think Vince talking. I mean, because a lot of people, if you got Vince on a podcast, you'd think they want to talk about controversies, but to now try to dive into the creative process behind
Yeah,
the the man behind the controversy is it's kind of interesting.
yeah,
It's kind of, I guess the only thing I can compare it to would be like enjoying Chris Benoit's work, body of work, and not the other stuff that happened. If that
yeah,
makes sense,
yeah,
which a lot of fans do.
yeah. But I mean, I don't want like I'm trying to word this the right way.
Exactly. We're in muddy waters, my friend.
Yeah, because I don't think with Vince, like I mean, the girl knew what she was doing. I mean, whatever you want to say. I mean, she was in it for the money, and the only reason she said anything was, I mean, it's fucked up what he did. I'm not defending that. I'm not
100%.
defending that. But
Disclaimer: it was fucked up.
yeah, for sure, 100%. But at the same token, I mean, the only reason she came out and said stuff because he didn't pay her. You know what I mean? Like she was quiet until
It's there. It's in the writing.
until he stopped paying her. Then she's like, okay, well, and I guess I'll say something. Um, but it's still fucked up. Let me say that. Um, I don't think it's. I mean, that's something I wasn't shocked by. I mean,
No,
he's a rich, powerful dude. He's been the rich, powerful dude for 30 years. That's how those guys are. I mean, that's how they all are. You know what I mean? They're all I didn't know to that extent of shitting on heads, but they're all
Well,
like
I
that. I mean,
mean,
they're all
look at the
crazy like
stuff
that.
he had happen on national TV.
Yeah, for sure,
Like
absolutely.
you can only imagine what was going on at home or in
Yeah,
the hotel room or behind the scenes.
yeah. But he got in trouble in the '80s for accused of rape, and he got in trouble in the '90s for something. I mean, it's not something like it's a secret that he was.
I think Sable sued him for harassment or something like
Yeah,
that in
yeah,
the
yeah,
late
yeah,
'90s before she came back. Like there's a history. Like you'd think that people would have saw it coming and not been so. Oh my God, there's
yeah,
no way. Like
yeah,
the trail was there. The
yeah.
breadcrumbs were all over the place.
No, for sure, and I absolutely believe everything the girl said. I mean, 100%. I agree, he did it, and I can see him doing all that shit. You know, what I mean,
So I guess to piggyback off that, um, a lot of reports lately were that we could see Brock back. And then the day of the Rumble, they post that his name is, in the lawsuit. Do you think we'll ever see Brock Lesnar back in the WWE?
I don't think so. It's not even it's not like he's a guy that wants to be back anywhere full time. He hates it.
Mm-hmm.
He only does it for the
Yeah.
money. But I can definitely see him disappearing and never. I mean, why would I mean? Could you imagine the reaction though? Because I mean, you're still gonna have half the crowd that might like I don't want to say booey, but like cheer like or chant some crazy shit at you. You know, like
Yes.
you never know what could happen. You know?
It's like, to a lesser extent, it's like bringing Tessa Blanchard back to TNA.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. I think everybody deserves a second chance. But like, you saw it when she showed up
Yeah. The
immediately.
chance.
She's a racist. Like
Yeah.
right off the bat. I don't even think there was that many minutes in the match before she's getting those. So like, it's always a risk.
Well, like Hogan coming out on Raw getting booed out the building.
I thought that was insane if you
Yeah.
think about it, because like a lot of people were saying it's because of his political views, but I mean, a segment or two later, I think Taker comes out, or it might have been before that. I can't remember, but like
I think
Taker
it
has the
was
same
I think it
views.
was after yeah, and he didn't no, it was all the
He didn't give
racist
it.
stuff.
Everybody loves Taker.
Yeah, yeah, but it's all the racist stuff, and I think he hasn't genuinely like you don't feel he genuinely feels sorry for what he did. You know what I mean? Issue a press release or whatever, and that's kind of it. Like
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever seen him genuinely like that, and then you find out more and more and more about the crazy Hogan, how crazy
but
is thinking that he's the best, like he created everything. You know, he created the heavens and the
yeah,
earth kind of deal. You know, I think it's all the mixture of that. I think people are over Hogan, man. I think they've been over him numerous times in his career because before
it's.
Hollywood, he was getting booed out the building.
I think it's crazy because like Hogan, I was a big fan of as a kid, and like even growing up, when I saw him go to TNA, I was like, oh, that's gonna be interesting. Now, like watching it back later, the TNA stuff wasn't good.
No,
Um, but as a kid, I liked Hogan. My dad was a Hulk maniac. So
yeah,
like it's crazy to see how the legacy's been tarnished
yeah,
so much. And there's no like I don't know if there's a recovery,
no, I don't think
and it's
so.
sad. It's sad.
Yeah.
Like what do you think makes the difference between somebody like him and a Ric Flair?
Ric Flair's starting to get tarnished for me too, though, man, because he's kind of turned into seems like the male Karen for like somehow, man. You know, but again, he's like there's a line between just getting old and crazy, and then like again being racist as fuck. You know, like
Yeah.
and what Hogan said on what he got caught saying wasn't like a slip of the word. It was, "Hey, I'm a racist, and I'm admitting I'm a racist, brother." Like,
Yeah,
um,
there's a big difference. I mean,
yeah,
I think that's even different than showing yourself on a plane. Like, there's a big
yeah,
difference
yeah, yeah.
between
But then
flashing
again,
somebody.
that's yeah, yeah, and that's Flair. Like, even when this stuff where he was at the restaurant, he was like yelling at the bartender or whatever, and he was sloppy, and you just kind of think, oh, it's Ric Flair drunk, ha ha ha. It's
That's a
you know,
player move.
yeah, yeah, it's a Flair move, pretty much. Yeah,
Do you think we'll ever see Hogan back on Raw?
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think he'll
What
be
about
in some capacity. He'll be back. Not he'll probably be like in Tennessee or in fucking Alabama. He ain't gonna be on the West Coast again or in New York City.
it's crazy because Hogan lived on the West Coast forever. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure. So, like, for him to be there and get that reaction is crazy. But,
yeah,
like, I heard a lot of people were saying, well, if he was on the East Coast, it wouldn't happen. But it happened in Tampa, too,
yeah,
at WrestleMania.
and that's his home in Tampa.
Yeah. So it's just crazy that, I don't know. It's uh, maybe it'd be better if Hogan just went off and did his beer and left alone.
Yeah,
Do
but
you think,
that's why I always get crazy about people with their like spouting the political stuff, man. Like You're
You got
always
to
gonna
be
piss.
careful,
You're always gonna piss off half the population, always, right? And if
or
your
more.
job, if your income is generated off of the public, like why would you alienate half your fucking income source? To me, it was always stupid.
Right.
Right or left, you know what I mean? Like keep your mouth shut and keep it moving.
Exactly. And like, not only did you pick the side, but you also have all this other stuff that's held against you.
Yeah,
And then I don't know, there's not a lot of people other than maybe like a Brutus Beefcake that are talking good about Hogan. Like you have every other legend shitting on everything he
yeah,
says or
yeah,
does or
yeah,
did.
yeah,
So it's hard
yeah.
for Hogan fans. I'm a fan, so I don't want to say I envy them, but like I'm not as much of a fan as I used to be,
Yeah,
if that makes
absolutely.
sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. But that's why like Taker, why he was so protective for so long, because he never did those interviews. And it seems like now the more he opens his mouth, it's like, come on, just be quiet and be the dead man, man. You know,
Just talk
just
about
talk
your
wrestling.
wrestling, man. Why do you gotta go and
Yeah.
talk about other stuff?
Yeah.
You have 30 some years of stories that nobody's ever heard. Why would you
Yeah.
open your mouth about Donald Trump? Because
Yeah.
nobody in wrestling really cares,
No
bro.
one cares. No one cares.
Like you gotta think. I mean, if we're being honest, we're sitting here watching dudes in tights. We don't care about what the suits are doing in Washington D.C.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
uh, just to jump back to Flair, do you think we'll ever see him back on AEW? I'm pretty sure. Like last I heard, he's still under contract. But like since Sting's been gone, he's been quiet.
Who knows with him, man? And who knows with Tony Khan, man? It's like Tony Khan is just kind of like whatever mood he's in, he's willing to throw money at. I guess it seems like. I just hope Ric Flair doesn't get back in the ring again for another match. I mean, the last
That
one
was
was
scary. It
yeah,
was scary. I watched it. I was worried.
but he's talking about he wants another one, and I'm like, what do you? What's going? Like, you
For
want
what
to?
reason?
He wants. I think he wants to die in the ring. He wants to be one of those guys.
I think it's funny, like the internet chatter. I remember I hear like there was the memes of Bronson Reed going around, and Bronson Reed was like, "Yeah, one tsunami, I'll kill him." Like I don't know why you guys want him to die. And then like the whole internet community is like, just get it over with. Like it's
I don't get it, man. I don't get what's going through his head.
I, I don't understand the last match, especially like the group of people he was in there with. I don't think he could have chose a better group of people. It being Andrade, Jeff Jarrett, and Jay Lethal, but
Mm-hmm.
like he just did too much. Like I don't think we need to see him fake a heart attack or any of that extra stuff. Like at that point, you're just worrying people.
Well, he's got to be close to 80, no? I mean, could you imagine? But then again, I mean, Mae Young used to be in there, man, taking insane bumps and power bombs off the top table to the to the tables, man. So
Yes,
she was
but
special.
yeah, she was one of a kind. I don't think anything could ever compare to her or Mula. They
Yeah,
were just like remarkable
yeah,
because no matter how old they got, they're still out there taking bumps and
yeah,
hanging in with the women that are a quarter of their age, if not
yeah,
an eighth of their age. So like it's just wild that they was out there doing it for so long and better than
yeah,
most. Like they were obviously way more seasoned than the
yeah.
whole roster probably put together, but they. I don't think they get enough credit for what they did. I know like things have came out about
Mula.
Mula since then. So like those things just always suck because they tarnish a legacy.
Yeah. Oh, well,
Do you?
Mae Young's a G.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think in now's society with social media that it's much like that it's easier to ruin a legacy?
At least half the population. Because I mean, I'm sure half the population still thinks Hogan's even better now because of all the shit he says. You know what I mean? So I think it's just
Perspective.
it all comes down to what you say and who about. I think personally, there's certain stuff you can seems like you can get away with nowadays, and there's just certain stuff that there's no coming back from. Um,
Okay.
like beating on women kind of deals. Like I think in and being a kind of sex predator kind of deal thing. I think there's not a lot of coming back from that.
No.
I've seen plenty of guys who've got canceled and I haven't seen them back yet. And you kind of see the pictures of them working out Waffle House or something like that depressing. Like, damn, like the dude was on his way up and for being a creep, man, he's not in it no more, you know?
I, you definitely get that a lot because there's a lot of stars, especially in like the early 2020s, that were on the way to do great things, and then things came out, and now
Yeah.
they're not the same. So I just always wonder if like the internet also makes it too easy to cancel somebody without all the information, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. I see that, and it's happened. I mean, what was it, a few like not a few years ago, but director of Guardians of the Galaxy, he got canceled off and kicked off part two, and then you kind of
Yep.
just had to wait for the news cycle to be over, and he kind of got snuck back in. But it's weird, man, because like it just depends. Because sometimes some people will let shit go, and sometimes they'll nail you and focus in on you, man. It seems like it's just luck of the draw sometimes.
I think it has a lot to do with how you respond too. The
Yeah, yeah,
response, the pushback you give, I think has a lot to do with how it's received afterwards. Because initially it's going to be shock,
yeah,
but if you say nothing, it looks bad. If you say the wrong thing, it looks even worse.
yeah.
So like it's all about the response. And I don't know. Obviously, it depends what it is, but like I think the big difference between getting those who've got forgiveness, who haven't got forgiveness, no matter what it is the accountability.
Yeah.
Like saying, "Hey, I did this," or "Hey, yes, that part's true. This part's not. I'm sorry." I think goes a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. No, no, it is true. And again, that's what it comes kind of reverse back to Hogan's. Like I don't think anyone's really seen him be really truly sorry for anything he's
No,
said or done, you know?
absolutely not. And he just keeps saying wilder, crazier shit everywhere. We brought up AEW a couple times. Most people would say that AEW is not at its hottest era. If you had if you had the power, how would you fix that this year? Like,
um, get rid of Tony Khan as the booker there.
okay,
No disrespect to him, but it's just the lack of I think experience there. In long term storytelling, I think is what it is. He kind of seems like a kid with ADHD kind of deal where, he starts one way and then gets distracted and heads another. Um, but just been a lot of like weird because I watched all the way through the beginning, all the way through the pandemic, and then I think what it kind of started falling off was AEW first came out was supposed to be like real professional wrestling. None of the hack, crazy, ridiculous shit Vince was doing at the same time. It was supposed to be wrestling. And somewhere along the way, once Vince was outed, WWE kind of became more of wrestling again, and AEW kind of went the opposite way of being kind of the ridiculousness, but not in a good way, I think. Like to me, one of the biggest ones when like Okada first came out. Huge star in Japan, big ass fucker, and then you stick him with Young Bucks, and his main thing was what? Saying bitch. Like that was his main thing at the time, like
yes, yes.
and you know what I mean? He should have been a beast and destroyed everybody, like good or bad. Um Swerve, so I stopped watching and the Dynamite after Swerve won, I tuned in expecting a huge fucking parade and Prince Nana dancing all over the place. And instead, you got like a 15-minute competitive match. I think it was like AR Fox or something. I'm like, this guy's just became a world champ, and he's going to the limit with some guy from the lower down on the card. Like, didn't make any sense to me. Um, I think he just kind of surrounded himself with people that tell him what he wants to hear to get that money from him. I guess, man.
Try to get themselves over, maybe.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. Because he has
no,
a lot of
just
stars, man. And at the very beginning there, he had a bunch of stars, and somewhere along the way, man, like they all just kind of got lost in the shuffle.
exactly, exactly. And like, I think, no disrespect for your Chris Jericho's, your Brian Danielsons, but it's in their best interest to stay at the top of the card.
Yeah,
And when you got them helping you with the pen, it's not going to go as it
absolutely.
should. When I think before we go, I'm gonna ask one more AEW question.
Yeah.
Do you like the angle with the Death Riders?
Um, I like Mox, man, but I'm not. I don't know, man. It's just when again, it's what you hear is he's in charge kind of deal and of saving everything. Um, I like Mox, but I just for some reason been always seeing the blood. It's like it ruins it for me with him.
Okay.
He ruined it, and I like him, but he's a millionaire. Like, what are you still acting crazy for? Like, you're rich as fuck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what are you so angry
Yes.
and miserable about? You're rich. Everyone knows you're rich as fuck. Like, you got a hot wife, you got a cool kid. Like, be the
So
badass,
you
but you don't got to be the fucking crazy ass, putting paper bags or plastic bags over people's heads, choking them out kind of deal. You know what I mean? Like, it's just it doesn't
he
fit no
could
more
have
with him.
he could have been the Austin to like the Bucks'
Yes.
version of Vince.
Yeah.
Like, and it would have worked.
Yeah.
I don't know. Mox just he doesn't do it. and I don't know what it's going to take to
I,
fix it.
I
But
think he's just trying to do too much, man. He's trying to do too much, like trying to be too crazy with it. And it's like sometimes less is better kind of deal.
I think that could be said around the board, though. I feel like
Yeah.
everybody there is in scramble mode trying to figure out how to fix it, and everybody's like, "Let's do the most, and something will work." And
Yeah.
in turn, you're getting nothing.
Yeah.
Like,
Because they got a lot of talent, man, and a lot of vets on there. And then for some reason, it's just, and like, to me, it comes back down to Tony Khan, man. Because then you see the pressers too, and like, he just seems out of place, man. Like, he just seems like he has no business being there.
I mean, I guess no disrespect to us, but he seems like us up there on a bigger
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I could run AEW. There's no
No, no
way.
way. There's no
No,
way.
I might be able to give a creative pitch here and there, but like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be able to run it. I
Yeah.
don't.
But
So
because
like, that's
imagine
my
he
thing.
does create it for what? Both shows and Ring of Honor.
Yep.
So he's doing everything by himself. And it's here's a guy that didn't grow up in it. He was just a fan. So it's like, again, like I said earlier, Vince is a creative genius because he's had that long-term storytelling. He knew how to build stars and keep them established for so long from that experience. I don't think Tony Khan has that.
Okay. Okay. Before we get going, I'm going to ask you one more question, and that's as far as this year goes, what are like some of your goals for your podcast and uh, for growth?
Um, Commentate sometime this year.
Okay.
At least one match somewhere. And I'm trying to see if I can get some of the guys I grew up watching on. I got a couple of leads on a couple of guys that I have tons of questions for just from watching them growing up.
Yeah.
So that's kind of another leap I'm trying to make with that too as well.
Okay. Man, thank you so much. I wish I could keep you on for longer. We'll have to do this again, maybe part two
Absolutely, man.
sometime.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. Hit me up whenever you want, man. Appreciate you for having me on.
Sounds good. Of course. I am Justin Wright. He is that wrestling dude, and we'll see you later.